Hey guys, it's Tim coming at you with a brand new MCU video for this week. So with more and more cast announcements being made for the highly anticipated Spider-Man Homecoming, a lot of speculation has surfaced about who these particular actors have been playing, because outside of a handful of roles, most people don't even have a name associated with their character yet. So in this video, I'm going to focus on 3 of the casting choices in particular and who I feel those characters might be playing or should be playing. Those 3 being Zendaya, Laura Harrier, and Michael Barbieri. Now, of the 3, Zendaya's the only one who's been given a name to her character, which is just Michelle. And in all fairness, there is a Spider-Man character who is even a love interest of Peter Parker whose name is Michelle. That being Michelle Gonzalez, who showed up in the late 2000s and early 2010s. And to be fair, sometimes a rose is a rose is a rose, meaning that we might be getting exactly what we're told we'll be getting, and she will in fact be playing a character named Michelle. And even though in Earth 616 she's a character from much later in Peter's life than high school, that's never stopped other characters from later in his life from being transposed into his high school years in other adaptations and comic versions. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that this could be an option. But for the sake of argument, let's just assume that it's a production name and she's actually playing another character who we might know a bit better. Now for both Laura Harrier and Zendaya, one thing that I've noticed around the internet when I look up who people are speculating to be these characters, the thing that I see most often is that the option that people go with is every female character roughly around Peter's age. And yes, if you do guess that way, you do have a higher chance of actually guessing correctly, but you also have a lot more wrong options. Now, between the 2 of them, I'm going to lower it down to 3 potential options that the 2 of them could potentially be playing in this movie. Those 3 being Liz Allen, Sally Averill, and Glory Grant. Sally Averill being the first ever object of affection of Peter Parker from all the way back in Amazing Fantasy number 15, from back before she even had a last name. Liz Allen being Peter's most prominent love interest from his high school days in the comics, and also having been a love interest of both Flash Thompson and later in life Harry Osborn, and even being the mother of his child. And Glory Grant being a friend of Peter Parker from later in his life who eventually worked with him at the Daily Bugle. And the reason that I picked these 3 over, say, more obvious options like Mary Jane or Gwen Stacy is because A, we really haven't gotten representations of these 3 characters yet in any of the Spider-Man film franchises. And B, I feel that if we start off with Mary Jane or Gwen Stacy again, we're really not going to get another chance to get these characters into one of these movies. Because while the Raimi Spider-Man movies were a bit better than the Amazing Spider-Man movies about having other female characters besides Mary Jane, Aunt May, and Gwen Stacy, outside of those 3, no one really did anything. In fact, I don't think Betty Brant ever actually stood up in any of the 3 movies. I feel that since Mary Jane and Gwen Stacy are so well known for being Peter Parker's love interest, as soon as one of the 2 shows up, they immediately become the most important female character in the series to the detriment of the others. And I think starting fresh and starting in high school is the best chance we're gonna get of getting these other female characters from Peter Parker's life into a Spider-Man movie before Gwen or Mary Jane show up. And by introducing another love interest before them, or even just another prominent female character in Peter's life, you can really go a further distance to show why Mary Jane or Gwen are Peter's chosen love interest and why they're meant to be with him. And even if one of these 3 don't end up with Peter, they can still remain in the franchise because we've already established who they are. Plus, if they use Liz Allen, they can have the connection to Spider-Man 2099, since in the more recent comics, Liz Allen's company became Alchemax. So moving on from that, let's look at who I feel Michael Barbieri's gonna play, and this one's gonna be a lot easier to go through. Now, the big rumor for who he was supposedly playing was the Miles Morales supporting character Genki Lee. But this has in fact been shot down by director John Watts, who went on Twitter stating that Barbieri was never intended to play Genki in the movie, or even a Genki-like character, and he's not even sure how that rumor even started. So with that out of the way, I'm gonna go for a bit of an obvious choice with this character and say that I think that he's going to be playing Harry Osborn. Not only does he have the look of the character down, I feel, especially a younger version of the character if they're going with the somewhat nerdier version from Earth 616, but by starting the character younger and not necessarily having all the goblin stuff being in his first appearance like it was in the last two movies, even if the goblin wasn't him initially in both, you can have the character have more of an arc and grow more of a connection with the audience so that if the character does become the Green Goblin later or lose his father later, it'll have more of an impact with the audience than it had previously. In the Raimi movies, Harry started off as something of a non-entity who was basically just there to be Peter's best friend and his rival for Mary Jane's affection, and then at the end of the movie he just decided he's gonna kill Spider-Man and that became his character for the rest of the movies. And in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, in his very first appearance, he lost his father immediately and became the Goblin by the end of the movie. So hopefully Barbieri will be playing the character of Harry Osborn and will be able to build more of a connection with the character than we had previously. But that's just what I think, and I can very easily be wrong about this, so let me know in the comments who you guys think these characters are going to be playing. And if you like what you've seen here, feel free to click that subscribe button if you haven't yet. We also have a Patreon account that you can donate to if you feel so inclined. And until next time, this has been Tim from the Hybrid Network, signing out.